Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan, and today we are going to be discussing the Jack Hughes versus Kaapo Kakko debate 2 years later after the 2019 NHL Draft. Now, we just saw the first matchup between Hughes and Kakko and the Rangers and the Devils this season, and there was a lot of takeaways. And if you do not know already, dating back to my 2019 draft coverage, towards the end of the whole draft season, towards the end of it, I had Kaapo Kakko as the slightly better prospect over Jack Hughes as my #1 prospect in 2019. So how have things changed since then? How have both of these guys played so far in their careers together? And who do I prefer right now in 2021? Watch till the end for all of my opinions, maybe some different ones, and hit that subscribe button if you are new. 70% of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed, and we're super close to 30K, so every bit helps, and we'd love to have you in the Grav gang. Thanks so much, y'all. Now, before I get into who I think is better right now and in the future, we first need to go back to 2019, both of these guys' draft years, and just see how impressive they were. With Jack Hughes, he was amazing in the USDP, racking up 112 points in 50 games played, and was an absolute monster. Yes, he did have a lot of great teammates in Trevor Zegras and Cole Caulfield and Alex Turcotte, but he was the star of the show and was the captain for Team USA on that roster as well. And in the U18 World Juniors was amazing, getting 20 points, I think, in 7 games played. He also played solid in the U20 World Juniors and was a decent part of the World Championship team for Team USA too. But then we go on to Kaapo Kakko's 2019 season, and this, I think, was more impressive than Jack Hughes. And that's pretty hard to get, since Jack Hughes' rookie or draft year season was pretty great too. In the Liga, in 45 games played in 2019, Kaapo Kakko got 22 goals, 16 assists for 38 points. One of the best draft year campaigns for any Finnish player in the Liga ever, and he was absolutely amazing. He kept that going into the Liga playoffs, where in 5 games played, got 4 goals, 1 assist for 5 points. And I thought Kaapo Kakko's regular season was super impressive, but he was a dominant player in those Liga playoffs. I remember watching a couple of those games and being blown away by how consistently good he was against men, how consistently amazing and top tier he was in the Liga. And then you get into his other performances in the World Juniors for U24 Finland. He got 7 games played and 5 points, got the game-winning goal against Team USA, looked great in those games. And in the World Championships, once again, performed amazingly. He got 7 points in 10 games played, which for a player that was 18 at the time is super impressive to be able to accomplish. Nobody really does that well in the World Championships at that type of age, and he was able to be such a big part of that Finland team that ended up winning gold. That entire draft year season was all impressive by Kaapo Kakko. Everywhere he played, he was better and better, and kept getting better as well throughout the season. With Jack Hughes, he wasn't seeing major improvement, but he was still looking amazing, and both of these guys were undoubtedly the top 2 prospects going into the 2019 draft. But nevertheless, at the end of the draft cycle, I had Kaapo Kakko #1 and Jack Hughes #2. Now, I think it worked out beautifully for New Jersey and New York. That was my angle at the time. I thought that Jack Hughes was a perfect fit for the Devils, and that Kaapo Kakko was a perfect fit for the New York Rangers. So I wasn't really too bothered by that, but I still thought Kaapo Kakko was the better prospect. And I want to be completely transparent in this video about what my feelings were back then and how they are now. And one of the main reasons why I did think that Kaapo Kakko was the better prospect was because I think he was more impressive in every place he played in, whether that be the Liga or the World Juniors or the World Championships. And I just thought he was far and away the more NHL ready prospect and the more prepared guy to step in the NHL and be in the Calder conversation. And that could not have been farther from the truth. Jack Hughes, yes, did not have the greatest season, and he was kind of disappointing as well. But Kaapo Kakko was awful in the NHL last year, at least besides the power play time. I think power play wise he was all right, but in terms of even strength play, he was just a complete negative and an absolute disaster. And one of the main reasons in the first place why I did think he was a more NHL ready prospect was just because the competition he was facing. I mean, the Liga, that's a great bunch of older players that have a bunch of veterans from the NHL, a bunch of solid players over there too, and it's not a slouch by any means. And playing in the World Juniors as well, and he was fantastic there. He played in the World Championships against fantastic players. I think ended up dusting like TJ Brody or somebody on that amazing World Championships goal. He had a lot of competition against him, and he was thriving. He was really getting under the skin of everybody else and playing up to a fantastic level in his draft draft year. For Jack Hughes, it was a big unknown because he was playing great in the USDP, but that's against mostly NCAA and USHL players. He was not great in the World Juniors, he was not great in the World Championships, and those were really his only big opportunities to play again, or at least the World Championships, to play against bigger and stronger competition. And you really didn't know what was going to happen in the NHL, at least in year one. And I think some of my concerns in terms of the NHL readiness was kind of warranted, and we did see that in the first year of Jack Hughes. There were some big problems in terms of finishing, in terms of staying in games and staying in shifts and keeping the play going. He obviously had the skill, you could see the amazing skating there, but besides that, it wasn't really a consistent effort, and just in terms of rookie season for a first overall pick, it was not good whatsoever. But with Kaapo Kakko, it was just not good at all. Again, besides the power play, defensively, he was awful, and that was something that I was surprised by because in the Liga, I thought he had a really solid defensive, and I think was one of the more solid defensive forwards in the draft, and that just did not translate whatsoever to the NHL level. It just seems his competitiveness just wasn't there. His overall work ethic and play just was not as consistent as what I saw from the Liga and the World Championships and the World Juniors, and it was just not as much as I was expecting. And that was sad to see from a guy that was playing so much more different in the Liga, and in the NHL was just not working whatsoever. And for a long time, my main, I guess, excuse for that was rest, because he played so much in that draft year, whether it be in the Liga playoffs, the World Juniors, the World Championships. He was playing a lot of games, but it was an excuse, and I was just waiting to see him finally turn a page and get better. And I think in the bubble against the Carolina Hurricanes, he was amazing. I thought he was definitely one of the better players for the New York Rangers, but it still wasn't like this absolute revival by any means. He was solid, but the rest of the Rangers team was just pretty bad, so it was kind of a low bar to set. And I was just expecting more going into year two. And so far, it hasn't been that bad. It's been a major improvement in Kaapo Kakko's game. He still hasn't been amazing by any means, but especially with Filipino and these last couple of games, the second one against the Islanders and this first one against the Devils, I thought he's played pretty great. And now the problem is him just not getting any opportunity whatsoever. Now, I have not been the biggest fan of David Quinn in his tenure with the New York Rangers, and I think I've made that pretty public, but this year has kind of just been a little bit asinine in my opinion. Now, with Kaapo Kakko, at least he got a decent amount of ice time in the first game versus the Islanders, but not too much. In the second game versus the Islanders, which I think has been his best game so far this season, he got 10 minutes of ice, and every single shift it looks like he was commanding play, and the line that he was on was doing a very good job. In this third game, he was playing with Filipino and Phil Giuseppe once again, and with Kaapo Kakko, that whole line with Kaapo Kakko and Filipino played a lot in the first period, and they were awesome. Like, that first period, I still stand by it. I think Kaapo Kakko was the best player in that first period. Obviously, you saw the goal by Zajac, but I think Kakko, every single shift he had in that first period was pretty fantastic. And then it seemed after that first period, for some stupid reason, they almost never played again. They played a few times in the second, nothing really came of it, and then in the third, there was almost nothing for like 10 minutes. And at the end of the game, almost, when the Rangers were down 1, they had the empty net, they had the power play as well. Kaapo Kakko was finally sent out there, but if we're being honest, that's not exactly a position that I would like to see Kaapo Kakko in. Now, I'll say this, it was a pretty uninspired shift by him anyways, but he hadn't played for like 12 minutes at that point, and then you absolutely throw him into the Wolves on the power play, finally, out of nowhere, because, yeah, they took Kaapo Kakko out of the power play, literally the only place he was playing good at last year, and you take that away from him now, but he's finally back on the power play all of a sudden, and you just throw him out there with 2 minutes to go and say, hey, best of luck, kid, go in the center of the ice and try to make everything happen. And he obviously did not make everything happen. He was not great in that shift, but again, he was kind of thrown into a bad position by David Quinn. And in terms of the ice time, he ended up playing 14 minutes of ice, but he played like those last 2 minutes, and I think that kind of inflated it a little bit because it was around like 8 minutes going into like halfway through that third, and it was just not good whatsoever. And I still think that line of Filipino, Kaapo Kakko, and then it ended up being Buchnevich was easily the best and most consistent line the Rangers had that night. And David Quinn just decided to stop playing it all of a sudden because, hey, we need goals, even though we'll take out the best line we played. And to me, that's kind of just explaining David Quinn's tenure with the Rangers. I mean, Kaapo Kakko finally is playing well, I think, to start out this season, but once that starts to happen, he's just taken away the ice time. And obviously, we'll get into Jack Hughes in a minute, but comparing Jack Hughes to Kaapo Kakko, a time on ice-wise, I mean, Jack Hughes was brilliant in that game. I think was the better player overall, but that was because he was playing. He was playing on the first line. He was playing with Sharangovich, and he was playing with Palmieri for a lot of that time, and he commanded every single shift because he was put in a position to succeed. He was on the first line power play, which is where he should be because he has the skill, he has the talent, and that's where he's being used. I mean, Lindy Ruff, maybe he wasn't the problem. I mean, that was a really good coached game by him. He put the youngsters where they should have been, and he put them in positions to succeed. Meanwhile, for David Quinn, let's just not play you in the third period, Kakko, and then put you on with 2 minutes to go, right out of nowhere, with no warning whatsoever, and try to make it work. It's not going to work, and it obviously bit him in the butt to end that game. And I've talked about opportunities so much on this channel when it comes to young players and how they're able to develop. I mean, when it comes to the Calder conversations and some of the players that have gotten the Calders over the years, you see guys like Elias Pettersson, Matthew Barzal, Cale Makar, they're given the ice time, but they're given the ice time that'll lend them to their strengths, especially a guy like Cale Makar, who went on the Avs when they got rid of Tyson Barrie, was given power play time, was sheltered, but was given the right role for him, and it worked out beautifully. With Kaapo Kakko, it seems like every single time he's getting in the groove, every single time it's getting going, it will just absolutely sputter out of nowhere. And this year has been a pretty great example of that. He was playing on the second line. He's now playing back on the third line. I felt like he was playing on the fourth line for some of this game last time around, and it was just not a consistent thing with Kaapo Kakko. And that's my problem, is that Jack Hughes, he's given the first line opportunity, he's given the first line power play as he should, and I think that's an amazing decision by Lindy Ruff to give him that opportunity, and so far he's been great. He put on a lot of muscle in the offseason, and it feels like Jack Hughes is a much improved player. And with Kaapo Kakko, I don't think it's too much different. I feel like he's a much improved player this year, and you can start to see that, but to some fault of his own, at least in the last few games, and also in just terms of the ice time of what we've seen, it's just not been in a position to actually get going and keep on going. I really think Kaapo Kakko should be on the first line power play. He should be given that time consistently. This isn't a team that needs to make the playoffs. I mean, yes, you would like to see the Rangers make the playoffs, but they don't need to. The number one priority should be giving the young guys the positions to succeed. And so far, David Quinn has absolutely denied that fact and just wants to make the playoffs for no reason, to save his job. But what I would like to see is a coach that plays their young players. And if we're looking at a coach that plays their young players, I'm looking at Lindy Ruff, who has Sharangovich and Jack Hughes together. They're working pretty well, man. And he's on the other team. What does that say about David Quinn? Now, we need to talk about Jack Hughes for a second, because as much as I'm nagging that Kaapo Kakko hasn't been given much of an opportunity, and Jack Hughes has been better this season, was better last night, and is playing amazing this year. Now, in terms of his total so far in 3 games played, has 2 goals, 4 assists for 6 points. Would have had 7 if that, I think that last goal, that was Subban's, I'm pretty sure, wasn't taken away due to offside, but it was a great pass and a great setup, and the Devils probably could have scored there and made it a 4-point night for Jack Hughes. But he was brilliant last night. I think from what I've seen with the Devils games, I've watched most of all of them so far, and Jack Hughes has been a much improved player, but especially last night versus the Rangers, I think was the biggest example of what he's improved upon. I mean, look, last season, you could see the skill, you could see the talent, but it was just not really coming together. It wasn't too consistent, and he wasn't playing the way the NHL needs you to play. He was kind of still in like junior hockey mode, and you could kind of see that consistently throughout the year. But it's obvious that Jack Hughes has improved in a lot of different ways. He's built up a lot more muscle over the offseason too, a lot more strength, a lot more size, and that's helped him a lot too. But he's using the skating, he's using the talent to grind players out, really get under the skin of other opponents, keep the cycle going, and keep possession going, which I think is exactly what Jack Hughes should be at the NHL level. And so far this season, he has played like he's deserving of a first overall pick, and has looked mightily improved too. And with New Jersey, again, I think the opportunity is really key. He's playing on that first line with Sharangovich and Palmieri in that that last game and looked incredible. He's on the first line power play, has been given all the opportunities to quarterback that offense and be the guy that was worthy of a first overall pick. And for New Jersey, they've done all the right things with him, and Jack Hughes has done all the right things. So to give credit to Jack Hughes, New Jersey, Lindy Ruff, they've developed him absolutely beautifully, and so far it's working out in droves. Meanwhile, for the New York Rangers, it seems like they don't want to put Kaapo Kakko in the positions that can actually make him successful. They don't want to put him on the power play. They took him off the power play after one game where everybody else was crap as well, and have him on the third line. And I think that pairing of Hedl and Kakko is fantastic, but as a third line that gets used for like 8 minutes per 2 periods, it's just not going to work long term. And it's obvious right now that David Quinn just does not have a fit for Kaapo Kakko, even though he's playing the best hockey I think he's played in the NHL so far, by far. He's been solid, he's been good, and has been consistent, and just isn't given the opportunity that Jack Hughes has been given. That said though, Jack Hughes again has been better last year, is better this year so far, has been given the opportunity, and again, the New Jersey Devils are reaping what they sow. And now we go back to the age-old question of not who is better right now, because I think we can all agree that Jack Hughes right now is the better player, but who will be better in the future. And again, this wasn't really supposed to be the question, because back in the 2019 draft, my main thing was that Kaapo Kakko is likely going to be the better player to start out, and I think it'll be really close as time goes on. And it still could be really close. We'll see what happens if the Rangers actually get their crap together, but as of right now, even as a person who likes the Rangers and is one of Kaapo Kakko's biggest fans of all time, I mean, I have his freaking jersey right here on me at the moment. I have a hard time justifying that Kaapo Kakko is who I'd take number 1 still. And right now, obviously things can end up changing, but one of the big things that I like to put on this channel, or just have on this channel, is accountability, especially when it comes to prospects, because it's a wacky world out there and there's a lot of unpredictability out there, and when I do get things wrong, I need to make that known and show my mistakes, because there's going to be a lot of mistakes that I do end up making. And as of right now, I'm going to take the L on the Kaapo Kakko is better than Jack Hughes debate, train, whatever, conversation, whatever you want to call it. As of right now, I would prefer Jack Hughes. I would prefer Jack Hughes right now, long term, with how he's been developed, with how he's been played, and how he has frankly improved. In a redraft, let's say, if I did it right now, I would have Jack Hughes number 1 and Kaapo Kakko number 2. And I'm not afraid to say that. I mean, I would rather not be a douche and stick on that train, even though I know it's wrong. And last year I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I still think this year he has been better. But if the Rangers just don't plan on playing him, and if he doesn't get substantially better too, I would rather have Jack Hughes as my first overall pick. And again, I'll take the L on that one. I'll eat crow, whatever you want to say, but for Devils fans out there, I'll say this right now. Jack Hughes is at the moment the best player in the 2019 draft, and right now, who I would pick first overall, that would be the man from America, Jack Hughes. Well, I vented a little bit there. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell button. Let me know, most importantly, where do you stand on this whole debate, and who do you prefer, Jack Hughes or Kaapo Kakko as of right now? Let me know, and also into the future, what do you guys think will happen to both of these guys too? Let me know in the comments down below all your thoughts. Share this video with your friends that, yes, I was probably wrong about Kaapo Kakko, and once again, I will take the L there too. Make sure click this card for all of my hockey rankings content right in one playlist. My name is Nathan. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video or stream. Goodbye.